Hey friends, welcome to another episode of Sketchy Ideas, the live point counterpoint video podcast where we debate, illustrate, discover, dive into new things, all things dealing with business, personal development, leadership, you name it. We talk about it. We even talk about some movies and stuff. And today we're going to continue our conversation from the last few episodes. But before we do that, let's give a shout out to the organizations that are helping to make this happen. You're up.
I think that's my cue. All right. So Sketchy Ideas is powered by Spirity. Spirity can also power your business. If you find that you are putting in way too much time with not enough results and you're burning multiple candles at both ends, we would like to help you. It's very likely that you are doing all the right things, but maybe not in the right order. Or maybe you're not doing any of the right things, but feeling really busy without being productive. I don't know what the opportunity is yet, but we're going to find it together. Reach out to Spirity, and we will help you turn your business into an engine for growth.
Spirity.
Spirity.
Spirity.com, right?
Spirity.com, yes. All
righty. And Cream City Marketing is the other organization making sure that this goes off. Great marketing company. We work with a lot of small, medium-sized businesses where we help them automate and build in and make their marketing strategies and sales goals happen, all with working with our very creative team. So go to creamcitymarketing.com and we can definitely help you out. All righty. So recap. Last week we had Michelle on and we talked a lot about another way that you can work with an assistant or a teammate or somebody on your team with delegating things to get them off of your plate if you are a business leader. It also is interesting because I think it will help those individuals who are being delegated to watch that episode as well, to understand maybe some ways that they can better help the people that they're supporting in their roles. Which leads us to today's episode, right?
You got it.
Where you and I talk in depth about how to take those processes and how to make sure that those processes are aligned with the right skills and the right roles in that process, more than even so in the organization.
Yeah, you're right. It's exactly
Did I get that right?
You nailed it. So often organizations operate by default. You know, I get to throw up my favorite red flag, the Tatwadi.
Tatwadi.
Tatwadi. Back. Tatwadi. That's the way we've always done it. Excuse for why. But Tatwadi is not a process. Tatwadi is not a why. Tatwadi is a red flag or a red herring. That's the way we've always done it, is the worst possible reason to keep doing something the way you've been doing it without checking to see if it's still working. So lots of
Tatwadi is comfortable.
Well, it's super comfortable. It's a giant lazy boy of comfortable, right? It is also the unexamined life, which according to some author whose name is escaping me at the moment, is not worth living. And therefore, the unexamined business process is not worth operating. Oh, I like what I did there. That was good. All right. So what does that mean? It means you need to look at it and not just operate by default. If you've got, here's the processes, the way we've always done them, but well, now you know, I should be looking at that. Here's what my priorities have always been. Now you know. Delegation, now you know. And then what? You still have a bunch of stuff that needs to get done and a bunch of people doing it. And if you haven't figured out who the best person to do the thing is, competency frameworks is the way to do it, which is a non-traditional approach.
Isn't that why we have roles?
Thank you. Speaking of red herrings, right. The roles and JDs, job descriptions for the non-HR folks out there, right? Tatwadis are often the source of roles and job descriptions and basic hierarchies. Not higher, or all of these things are operating by default and not necessarily strategic, because just because that's the way we've always done it doesn't mean that's the way we need to be doing it. And I don't know, Brad, have you ever seen like, well, we don't really have a job description for that, so let's find the closest thing available and we'll make that the job description?
Yes, I've actually been one of those people who've done that. Yes.
And really, the whole thing's hinging on that last statement on every job description, right? Other duties as assigned. And 80% of the job actually falls in under that category because the first bulk of the thing was a default.
The interesting part of that, though, is when choosing to go that route, it has typically been because of what we're diving into and the need for classification and ease of classification rather than the understanding of the goal of what finding a person to support and help with a process actually means. And I think that goes back to Twatty, because a lot of the individuals who have always said, hey, we'll just pull something off and it's a template, and they're doing it for two reasons. They're doing it, one, because that's what they've done, and two, that's what they've been told to do because of legal, HR, all that other stuff.
Yes.
So it's never been like, I'll say this from my standpoint, I have never ever liked using job descriptions, especially if there is not clarity in how that person will function within the context of what the end goal is.
Ooh, okay, clarity of function within the process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or
That
creation
is,
of the deliverable, right?
Right. So clarity, we all know and understand clarity of the function, what their contribution or input is as a component of the overall process that we're running here to produce the result.
Yes.
So what is this person's direct contribution to the success of the overall effort?
Yes.
I like
a
that.
Very different way of looking at it.
It is. It's not just, I am a customer service representative. And
yeah, exactly.
You've told me this much at this point, except maybe, the name of your job when the paychecks come out, because the customer service rep at any company is going to be similar, but different, right? People use the same terms to mean different things. Even this CSR versus that CSR might be doing different things. And if we haven't clearly defined what is the contribution to the output, then we're operating by defaults and we're missing opportunities here.
And typically they're different defaults.
Yeah. Yes, they are. Thank you. Right. This is back to definition of terms. See RASIC chart. See RASIC chart. You say coaching, I say coaching. We mean different things. You say business acumen, so do I. We have totally different concepts. So understanding, folks, understanding the contribution to the process. Contribution to the process. It's kind of the role, it's kind of the responsibility, but it's directly a function of your process because your process is producing your outcomes. And now what am I doing to produce that outcome? And sidebar on employee engagement, if I know that what I'm doing matters beyond me and I see its direct impact on the company's results or the outcome of our efforts, I get engaged. I'm plugged in, like, that matters. Yeah. When customer service rep, when I answered the phone by the second ring with a smile on my voice, I am telling our customer that they matter, not I'm doing what my job description says.
Correct. I think it's, without getting into the philosophical debate of why things should move towards this direction,
right,
or why it has stayed this way, it would be interesting to me to see any of you who are watching this episode to actually try and take what Michael's going to walk us through in terms of how to get to this point and implement it rather than pulling job description and editing a few sentences and going, yeah, that looks about right.
Right.
Like, I think you will see a very different caliber of person applying, especially if you're a young business. And you will get more, it may take longer, but you will get more of the people you want and less of the people you don't.
And that right there, there's definition of investment, right? It's going to take longer and in the long run will produce a better outcome.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's key. So,
So
Brian, let us know, Brian, if anybody jumps in with experiences that they've had with jobs, roles, job descriptions, all that good stuff. I think that could be an interesting conversation point for today.
Well, funny thing, I got good news and bad news.
Funny thing, we like when Brian
What do
says
you want
funny, I don't know that it's necessarily funny. All right, Brian, what do you got?
Good or bad news? What one do you want first?
What do I? Bad first.
Bad news is, it looks like we never went live today.
Okay.
Good news is it's recorded,
Great.
so we can still get it out there sometime soon.
Brad, I'm sorry, Brad. Your 5 that somehow became a 6 now has to become a 0. You know what though, Brian, you're right. That is good bad news because that's not terrible. So people don't get us live. So when you are watching this, I am sorry that there was a delay in your reception of this. I don't know what whatever it is that you get.
Michael's brilliant. Michael's brilliant.
Oh, thank you.
Is artistic dialogue of how to instill values around finding the right individuals and matching them to the right skill sets and competencies in your organization, and his masterful artwork helping to illustrate it for you and your team on how to execute this magnificent playbook by Mr. Rampolla.
Wow. Brian, thank you for recording, because I don't know if I'm ever going to get that again. Thanks, Brad. I appreciate it. All right, all right. So when you do see this, you'll appreciate the heck out of this, because we're going to give you the model.
This is one of those moments right here.
Oh, yeah, that was perfect. All right. So here we go. So, okay, reset.
All right.
So here we go. So now how do we get clarity of the function within the process? So how do we get here? Let me go back. So if we're talking about understanding and defining your business, number 1 is strategy, meaning what is your strategic approach? How are you going to grow? What's your method and approach, right? Number 1 is strategy. Number 2 is going to be these processes that we've defined, that we've been talking about. So what are the processes that enable us to best achieve the strategy? Right. Okay. Number 3, structure, and specifically for the org. So in org design world, people who design organizations that serve functions through processes to achieve strategies, how you set the organization up and its structure should be a function of the processes and the strategy, not the other way around.
Yep.
Right. So instead of saying this is our structure, therefore those are our processes, what's the best process to achieve that outcome, and therefore what's the right structure to support it?
Yes. Now that's really hard to do though for a lot of early stage businesses, but I promise you, if you take this approach, the idea is not to have the perfect process right off the bat. The idea is to iterate based on that.
Correct.
And I think that's so. I'm only bringing this up because we're not. I know there are some of our viewers are very much embedded in a structure that has been there for years and years and years and years and years.
Absolutely.
And then there are others who are making it up as they go. So this is something, when you're thinking about your business, this is, if you recall one of our earliest episodes, when you're talking about quarterly goals, this is something you do one process at a time, especially if it's just you and a small team or just you. This is not something you try to recreate and do overnight within weeks, because if you do that, you're going to spend all your time doing that and not necessarily executing in the business, right? In versus on. And when you're young, you got to do both. But if you're an organization that's been doing this for a while, yeah, these are conversations typically also that when that happens, and tell me if I'm wrong, will tend to take longer to implement than if you're an early stage business. So if you're doing this at an early stage business, do it regularly, pick one thing, just like we talked about during the process conversation, and figure this out, right? What what is the end goal, work backwards, build up the process, then great, you've got some structure because you probably already have a team. And then that leads to where you, Michael, are going to talk about building the structure to execute that process, right?
Absolutely got it.
And-
Absolutely right. Yep. And
So-
so Brad, I want you to hit the core point of that again, right? Which is iterative, right? It's iterative, and
over and
B,
over again.
more often than not, you don't get to change this whole thing at once, and I wouldn't even ask you to, right? It's going to
Right.
be small, iterative, incremental, and because first of all, you don't know if it's going to work, and second of all,
Yeah.
the constraint of your naturally limited resources typically doesn't allow you to raise the building, right, and start over from scratch.
Correct.
Right.
Or completely get rid of everybody on your team if you realize they don't have the right skills.
Yeah, you can't scorched earth. There's no scorched earth approach to org design. I mean, there is, but it doesn't.
Well, you can, but it tends to you want to burn candle at multiple ends, like basically chop the candle in a bunch of little bits and burn it real fast. Go for it.
Good.
There's a picture for you, right?
There's an image, right?
One big candle.
I like this.
Here's our big candle, right?
Yep.
It's dripping. You know, we've got this and our
Very nice.
Our
Very
flame,
nice.
right? Right?
Flames. Yep.
Okay.
Very nice.
Take that candle, drop it on its side,
Very nice.
chop it into very small pieces. So now you got how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Appreciate the accuracy. I want to make sure I draw the same number. That's good.
Which one's gonna last?
Well, yeah.
And this is
interesting.
even from both ends,
Right.
right?
Right. Those are now, okay. Now depends. Do I light them all at the same time?
If you're doing scorched earth,
If I'm doing scorched earth, well, if I'm doing scorched earth, I drop them into boiling acid and just kind of move on. Right. But or I throw it in the kiln, or not the kiln, what I throw it in, into the pot, melt it down to wax, and now I get to not having a candle anymore. But it's interesting. So it's funny. We're having fun with the candle, right? But actually, that's competencies and roles and frameworks, because instead of just running the process as one big thing, my ability to understand the parts that make up the big thing and set up the disparate separate items is my ability to start to make iterative adjustments.
Yep.
That's actually a more interesting and apt metaphor than I think we might have intended when we got going on this road, which, yay, good for us.
Since technology's not working, we're going old school.
Old school. Candles.
Candles.
Sketchy Ideas by candlelight. For the romantically minded business owner. Sketchy Ideas by candlelight. All right, let's get so back to metrics. So the next thing, metrics and rewards. And I'm dropping in metrics and rewards because it's required after we get this to make sure that you're measuring the right things and reinforcing the right behaviors. That's there's a forecast for a future episode, but measuring the right things and rewarding the right behaviors, if you understand the previous items, will be easier to do. But again, do this out of order and things get all mixed up. Now,
yes,
get into competencies. Which eventually, by the way, gets into people. What I mean by that is, in org, because this is an org design model, I'm borrowing a little bit from Galbraith here with a couple tweaks. People, aligning the resources to the work is last. A lot of organizations, when they're restructuring, reorganizing, thinking about how to get stuff done, start with, well, who do we have available?
Which makes sense.
Which does make sense on a day-to-day basis, but it's a perceived and unintended constraint.
Yes.
That who I have is what I have, and that's it. If instead, and also go to roles. Well, how many CSRs do we need? Or, right, do we need to hire a new full-time person? Well, we can't afford a full-time person. Well, therefore that work's not going to get done. Get down to the work to be done and get down to the competency required. So when you take your process, Brad talked about documenting processes, right? So let me take that process out and take it to the candle, which is, again, beautiful. So if we take the whole candle at once, that's a whole roll. But if I take that candle and I start slicing it into what are the pieces that make it up, now I've got processes. And each of those processes has one or two, it's free to be called crucial competencies, meaning not all of them, but what are the critical ones? What are the crucial competencies needed to run that piece of the process? And only that piece of the process. Because if I can define at that level, almost micro level, which piece of the process, what's the competency needed to run it, now I can start, it's really easy to outsource one small function. It's really easy to automate or at least systematize one small piece of the overall process. If you're not delegating, it's because you're trying to burn the whole dang candle at once. If you can turn it into a bunch of tea lights, now you can start outsourcing individual parts of it. You don't have to light them all at once. You can set up a relay. This metaphor is strangely working. All of this is to say, by defining processes down to the smallest possible logical component, you can get more critical understanding of what are the crucial competencies for that process and better understand what is it that we need, which specific skill is needed. There's a whole nother conversation about hiring. Brian, archive that one. Let's archive where am I going to invest my money when it comes to hiring and talent development. We'll put that down the road. Because today it's about competency, defining first, because the people is later. Brad, I'm getting ahead of myself, which means you need to jump in and stop me because you wanted to talk about how do I lock this stuff in and how do I make these competencies automatic, right?
Well, I mean, you've hit it. You've talked about all of the pieces, but with each of these details, because we're talking about roles outside, like roles versus skills and competencies, and how to align skills and competencies to that overarching thing rather than assigning roles based on people.
Right.
And I think the reason that this is very counterintuitive to a lot of people is because it's really hard to measure skills and competencies when you're dealing with people, unless you've got that process and you know how to measure it and you know how to do it, which if you've been following us along, you've probably been building it, you probably can measure it. There are now, dare I say, probably thousands of ways that you can measure skills and competencies of individuals. We talked about personality tests. We talked about skills tests. We've talked about, and the reason I know this is possible, friends, is because they do it in sports all the time. Whether you like it or not, it happens. It happens on sales teams. It happens in marketing. It happens in IT companies. It happens at restaurants. So I know that this is possible, whether you believe it is or not. You just have to figure out what those measurements are or those critical measurements are. And the only way then, if you have a team where you've identified individuals on your team with skills or competencies that they can build upon, is you have to help those people get better at those things. And the only way to do it is there's three ways based on, a bunch of research, and it's you're going to do repetition. You're going to immerse somebody in something so they get better at it and master it, or you're going to hypnotize them. And that way they remember it in their subconscious so that when things come up, yeah, I said hypnotize. I did say that.
Okay. You're right. It's just, sometimes a word just kind of like jumps out. One of these things is not like the others. And there's hypnosis. You're right.
We're talking about subconscious, man.
You're right. Okay, now actually we get to do a callback on that. Hi, Cyrena. We get to do a callback. We've actually talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
That's wild. We've been doing this too long, Brad. If we get to do a callback to hypnosis in the subconscious mind, I don't know. All right, sorry. Please carry on.
So when you're talking about skills and competencies, though, and pulling these things out to make sure that the process works, how are you, when you work with clients, how do you necessarily get to this point of having this conversation? Because you work with a lot of HR experts, and this is extremely counterintuitive to how they've been trained most of the time,
Absolutely.
unless they've learned this from you or somebody else previously.
So great question. And it goes back to our process conversation. So Fred, you said the clarity of the function within the process. So let's take our candle, right?
Mhm.
What is, if the role
Yep.
is candle, right? How many candles do we need? I don't know yet. Well, we've always had at least a case of candles on hand at any one time. We've always had a dozen candles. Okay. What is the role of each candle? Well, the role is candle. What is the function in our process?
Are they scented? Are they scented? Are we talking scented candles here?
no,
Are we talking beeswax candles? Are we talking?
Great question. That depends on the process, right? In this case, our process is light up the room.
Okay.
Or let's see, process. Here, let's have some fun with this one. Make things visible.
What about making the room smell better?
That's a different process, right? Because that process, well, how about this? That's actually not the process. I'm a half a step behind myself. That's not the process. That's the outcome. The outcome that I'm looking for, thank you for backing me up into that. The outcome is make things visible. In your example, your outcome you want to reduce malodorous remnants. I want to make things visible. My process to do that, right, is add light. The role I've hired is candle. The function of the candle in that process is illumination. And therefore, the competency to do that is I need something that lights up. Well, guess what? Now, do I need candles necessarily? I don't know. I've got other ways to achieve that outcome, which kind of gets me to another idea, which through jobs to be done here. There's an idea in marketing and sales called jobs to be done, which says when you buy a product, you're actually hiring that product to do a job for you. Drill bits are not drill bits. When I'm buying a drill bit, I'm actually buying the hole because that's what I want as an outcome. I'm buying the job to be done is make a hole. I'm buying a drill bit to
and we're back to sales and marketing.
Yay, we did it.
You sell the outcome, you don't sell the item.
And yet, do we think the same way when it comes to jobs and roles and functions? No, we don't.
No.
We have this great insight thinking in the sales and marketing world going, sell the outcome, don't sell features and benefits, sell the outcome, sell the delicious sausage. Don't sell the process that you use to make it. And yet, we don't apply that same strategic thinking to defining roles, competencies, and functions as a means to achieve the outcomes of processes. We're missing, it's too obvious. That's the problem. It's too obvious and easy. But folks, the same reason that works better in sales and marketing is the same reason that this will work better for you in HR. And if I didn't convince you before, now I just tricked you into understanding and believing me, and you're welcome.
Hypnosis.
Also, maybe that. I don't know what Brad's trigger word was because he's so good at whatever he said it, and it got me going. So well done, sir. If you know what the trigger word is, please comment and let me know. Because Brad's got me, hooked around his little finger here, and I don't even know it. That's all right.
Look into my eyes. Just look into my eyes. Exactly. Anyway, hey friends, we're just about out of time. So I'm actually going to stop this because I do know that we have some other topics coming up that tie into this. We're going to continue this conversation over the course of the next few weeks with some different topics diving into this further, because we really want, again, if you've been paying attention, all of these episodes tie together. We are leading somewhere. Hint, hint, tease, tease. We've got something coming for you. Not ready to tell you what it is yet, but we do have something set up that we've been working on together. Believe it or not, Michael and I work together outside of this show. Sometimes I don't think people believe we do. So I I figured
Yeah.
I'd throw that out there.
Well, it's like if you ever saw your teacher at the grocery store and you didn't understand like what they were doing out of the school. Like you don't just live there.
Yeah.
You're out of context. We do talk besides 30 minutes a week. We promise.
So with that, I want to make sure that you understand this concept, right? You're not hiring roles. You're hiring for skills and competencies that fit an existing process, and that process fits a specific deliverable you are trying to achieve. This goes back. I'm going to reiterate it again. You sell outcomes. You sell jobs to be done. You don't sell process. You don't sell features and benefits. You don't find people that fit a laundry list of things. No. Build core processes in your organization. Make sure you understand what the outcome of that core process is, and then find people with the right skills. And you probably have these things in your companies, in your teams already. You really probably do. You just haven't taken the time to figure out, hey, what are you good at? Hey, what are you good at? Hey, what are you learning? What's the newest thing you learned this week? And I think so many people forget that people show up to maybe work, or they do work with you, but they never ask the question, hey, what are you learning? What are you trying to do outside of work right now? How could this fit? And I'm not even talking about just work skill stuff. I'm talking about understand what people's hobbies are. Because if you understand what people's hobbies are, you're probably going to uncover some different skills and competencies that individual may not have shared with you at work, that they might be willing to share with you if you ask nicely. So,
all right, I'm putting that in my parking lot because I had something and you said something similar to what I was thinking, which means we can pick those. I think we've got more and more content here.
Mm-hmm. With that, I'm gonna make sure we don't spill the beans. But Michael's super excited today, so we're gonna share that the next time on Sketchy Ideas. Okay, and remember, just because it's a sketchy idea does not mean it's not worth exploring. And this is one of those. Pretty sketchy. We'll see you next time.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.